Thank you so much, Alison, for being here with me today. My name is Izumi Tanaka. I am a green realtor and lead green associate, currently studying for LEED AP. I'd like to introduce my guest today, Alison Kendall. She is a California licensed architect and LEED accredited professional, AP, with specialty in building design and construction. She has a Master's of Architecture and Master's of City Planning from University of California, Berkeley, where she taught environmental design and energy efficient architecture. She's also a Green Point Rater for new and existing single and multi-family dwelling, and a Building Performance Institute building analyst specialized in energy efficiency. She has taught sustainable architecture and planning to students and professionals in California and in France. She founded Kendall Planning Plus Design as sole proprietor in 1997 in San Francisco Bay Area and relocated to practice to Santa Monica in 2003. Thank you so much, Alison, for being here with me today. I'm so honored to have you. And you have such a wide and in-depth knowledge and experience in sustainability and green building realm that I have multiple topics that I can discuss with you. And I may actually have to have you again. But today I wanted to talk to you about the different certification programs and rating systems for homes and the values and impact of those programs. So if you could just kind of briefly give me some idea what's going on in that realm of certifying homes and rating.
Sure. Well, our practice is specialized in green homes, both single family and multifamily, remodels, additions, and new construction. So I've been personally interested in sustainable design for a very long time, and I make sure that all my designers are trained in that area. So I'm so excited to see people like you, Izumi, in the real estate domain interested in learning more about green homes, because that's really the wave of the future.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you. What I thought would be the most useful is to illustrate two of the really popular green rating systems through a project we're working on right now in my office, which is a 2-townhome project in Culver City.
Mm-hmm.
This one we're doing with both the Green Point rating and the LEED rating system. And we were frankly interested ourselves to really explore what the strengths and weaknesses of both systems were, so that we could really test this design, which is really intended to be a net zero energy home. In other words, a home which uses only as much energy as it actually produces in the form of photovoltaic electric energy.
Right.
So on the screen, hopefully everybody can see this project, which is located in downtown Culver City. It's 2 townhomes on a very small lot. And as I mentioned, it's a net zero energy home with photovoltaic panels going onto the roof in order to offset that energy use. One of the things about this project, it's really intended to be a kind of entry-level home for young property, young workers in that Culver City, early walking distance to downtown. It's actually replacing a 1920s era home that was very funky and had really deteriorated pretty severely. So the new home is intended to accommodate 2 different families, both 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, and be centrally located enough that you actually do not need to drive everywhere to do your daily activities. So you see one of the homeowners there is a bicycle commuter, and the other one takes the expo lines. So
Right.
it's an ideal location for both
Mm-hmm.
those types of people. Um, this really shows how tightly the house is situated on the lot.
Right.
The typical lot in Culver City is about 5 or 6,000 square feet. This one is about 5,400 square feet, and it's weirdly, uh, I think there was a drunken surveyor or something, but it's not even. So that makes it even more challenging to fit something efficiently on the site.
Mm-hmm.
But we tried to use every single part of the site actively so that people would have outdoor gardening space and outdoor space as well.
Right.
Um, this shows the two units. Those you can kind of see how they're put together. One's the
Mm-hmm.
shape of a T, one's the shape of a C.
Right.
Um, we've used very sustainable materials, very durable materials that are energy efficient, like fiberglass windows, um, permeable pavers that allow rainwater to percolate into the soil, and generally just very durable materials.
Mm-hmm.
So not high end and not imported from the other side of the world. Generally just the most durable and efficient materials we could find. The idea of putting two full homes, separate properties onto one lot is
Mm-hmm.
also obviously very green,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's saving land and it's saving water and it's generally using our precious resources, including money, which in California can be a very major constraint for construction,
Yes.
using everything as efficiently as possible. So
Right.
here you can see this bird's eye view that really gives you a sense of how we used every single square foot of that lot,
Mm.
including the roof,
Yeah.
for the two units to give them as much outdoor space and usable space as possible,
Mm-hmm.
while still giving them a sense of privacy from each other.
Right.
Um, so the two systems that we're going to be talking about today that are really common in California and probably in the United States are the LEED for homes rating system, which is pretty well established, and then the Greenpoint rating system.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trained in both of those, and we're using both of those for this particular project.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see the titles of the different areas that you look at in LEED for homes and
Right.
on the left, and on the
Yes.
right, you see the titles of the topics addressed by Greenpoint rated.
Right.
And really, they are substantially identical. They're
Mm-hmm.
looking at the same array of issues,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in a little bit more detail and a little bit less, um, but essentially very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
LEED is a little bit different in that it's more universal. They have consciously tried to be basically international.
Right.
And by contrast, the Build It Green, Greenpoint rated
Mm-hmm.
system started in California. So it was more designed to encourage people to build within the California code, which is already very green,
Right.
and then stretch to what was probably coming in future codes.
Right.
So actually, Build It Green is somewhat more usable to most architects in California because it's very much based in the California code.
Mm-hmm.
And by contrast, LEED, sometimes you would find out that because California is already in its just baseline of code requirements,
Right.
very, very green, you would find yourself getting a whole bunch of LEED points
Mm-hmm.
for something that you were anyway required to do,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is kind of cheating.
Right.
So, so we became kind of fans of the Greenpoint rated system. Since
Mm-hmm.
then, Greenpoint rated is starting to spread to the rest of the U.S.,
Yes.
which is great because other states are realizing that this is a really usable system. And then the other thing that's a little bit different is I think the Build It Green system was developed in consultation with contractors,
Mm-hmm.
residential contractors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's frankly a little bit easier to verify and it requires less extra work
Mm-hmm.
by both the rater and in particular the contractor.
Right.
in order to kind of match it up and verify that you're doing
Mhm.
what you said you would do. So we really appreciate that as well, because the cost, the extra cost and the cost in general is always such a
Right.
concern.
Right.
So here you see the different areas that are addressed in any green rating system.
Mhm.
Resource conservation, first of all, indoor air quality, and increasingly with the COVID-19 pandemic, we've become more and more aware how important that is for
Yeah.
human health as
Yes.
well as environmental health.
Mhm.
Water conservation, and that often deals with rainwater and gray water reuse. That's probably the most important issue next to energy use that we deal with in Southern California.
Yes.
Something that Greenpoint Rated calls community, that LEED calls location and transportation and
Transportation.
sustainable
Huh?
sites, but it's
Mhm.
all about how if the house isn't located in the right area, its environmental impact can be much, much bigger than
Right.
it should be.
Right.
So that's why this particular project we're talking about is located in downtown Culver City, where it's incredibly close to many things, and there's very little demand for automobile
Mhm.
trips.
Mhm.
And then the last one, which always is really important, is energy efficiency.
Yes.
So some of the European systems, like Passive House,
Right.
almost consider energy efficiency practically the only thing to worry about.
Right.
Um, but increasingly, we're aware that depending on where you are in the world and what your climate is and what your constraints are, all of these issues in various ways are
Mhm.
super important to pay attention to.
Yes, I agree.
So that's really the strength of using a Greenpoint rating system,
Mhm.
whether it's literally Greenpoint rated or whether it's some other rating system. And
Mhm.
because I've taught and studied in France as well as California, I'm aware of them. There are different ones literally all over the world.
Sure.
Um, so in Britain, for example, there's something called BREEAM.
Mhm.
In Germany, Passive House. In France, there's HQE, which is high quality environmental homes.
Mhm.
There's a ton of these.
Right.
They're all addressing the same basic issues.
Mhm.
Here
Mhm.
in the US, there's a new one called WELL, which
Yes.
is particularly interesting because it kind of centers human health,
Right.
which increasingly we become aware is a
Yes.
very, very important thing to do.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but they all have kind of a similar kind of broad brush approach. And the thing that is the most useful about them, frankly, as a designer,
Mhm.
is not necessarily the little plaque you get at the end, that shows you that you did well,
Right.
but it's the checklist. So this, as an example, is a single family home checklist from Greenpoint Rated. And you can
Mhm.
see that basically there's a ton of different measures that address all those things that we talked about.
Mhm.
And then you get points in various ones depending on how which things you decide are
Right.
feasible to
Right.
include in your design.
Right.
So this one, this is for the Higuera home, I
Mhm.
believe. Let me see.
Mhm.
Yes. Um, and you can see that under energy, it gets a huge number of points, and under community, it gets a huge number of points.
Mhm.
And it does pretty well across the board, but it's really kind of off the charts on community. I
Yeah.
mean, on energy, excuse me.
Yes.
And that's because we really consciously decided to build it as one of these net zero energy homes.
Mhm.
But we love the checklist. We would use it even when the client does not require a
Mhm.
rating. We use it in our design process because
Right.
it reminds us about which features we should explore, and it allows us to make the case with our clients to
Mhm.
do the most green design possible within their
Mhm.
budget and
Mhm.
constraints.
Mhm.
So as an example, under community in this Culver City project, being within a quarter mile of a major transit station, having bicycle lanes within a few blocks, being able to walk to downtown schools, shops,
Mhm. Mhm.
having it be R2 zoning and with 2 units on one site.
Right.
All of those things are earning us points, but more importantly, they're actually making this the greenest home that it could be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when we look at energy efficiency, we often look at both the energy use of the home. So we look at trying to specify the most energy efficient features we can find.
Right.
We might want to look at electric car charging,
Mm.
but we're almost always, especially in California, it's really a no-brainer
Yeah,
to add photovoltaic panels. So
exactly.
this project is in Bel Air, California. It was
Mm.
a very wealthy, really quite conservative couple with
Mm-hmm.
no particular interest in environmental issues, but
Int-
merely on the economics
mm-hmm.
and the high performance elements and comfort elements of
Right.
being energy efficient. They decided to max out their rooftop solar and
Mm-hmm.
put in a very sophisticated heat pump heating and cooling system. So it
Wow.
just shows you that this is not just for, the folks who are willing to go out of their way for energy efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
If you're kind of a hard-headed dollars and cents type person like this homeowner was,
Yeah.
you will still come to the same decisions. So
Right.
that's really important to communicate with our
Mm-hmm.
clients. Similarly, indoor air quality, and again, the same project to illustrate this because this was located really close to the 405.
Okay.
So potentially a lot of issues of air pollution from the freeway.
Mm-hmm.
And then as it turned out, within a year of it being completed, we had all those wildfires, if you
Fires.
remember.
Yes.
So
Right.
indoor air quality became even more something on our
Mm-hmm.
minds. And
Mm-hmm.
this older couple was very, very glad that they had invested in this filtration system and
Right.
this really high
Mm-hmm.
efficiency
Mm-hmm.
um, HVAC system. So
Did you
they did a
electrify
lot.
this home, Allison?
Yes, it's 100% electric for the HVAC system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I believe they still had gas for cooking,
Okay.
but in the Culver City project, we've completely electrified, and in all our accessory dwelling units,
Right.
we tend to recommend all electric,
Right.
just because it's cheaper and safer, frankly.
Yeah. 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 I think
Um,
a lot of people have a attachment to the gas cooking stove.
yes, I was talking with a client about how there's sort of this human history with
Yeah.
huddling around the fire,
Yeah, that's true.
so on, that is deeply satisfying for people. But
Yeah.
once you kind of come to terms with how much damage gas
Right.
exploitation
Yeah.
provides in the environment,
Yeah.
you start to rethink that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, so similarly, obviously in Southern California particularly, but really across much of the Southwest,
Mm-hmm.
water conservation and management is one of the most important challenges we face. And in Southern California particularly, conserving water equals
Mm-hmm.
conserving energy because it takes so much energy to pump it and move it from wherever it's plentiful to where we use it.
Yes.
So, there we are putting snow melt from Northern California on our gardens, and that's kind of hard to defend as a long-term strategy. So, finding alternatives to that for irrigation and then being very, very conscious of water conservation within the home are
Mm-hmm.
both super important.
Mm-hmm.
And we generally wind up including rain barrels, for
Mm-hmm.
example, in all our
Sure.
because they save money and allow you to make better use of what you've got. So generally speaking, all of these issues and the really important overarching issue of resource efficiency means using wood and concrete and all the other building materials,
Mm-hmm.
and most importantly, money, which is
Right.
there never is enough money to do the construction project. It seems like
Right.
whatever the budget is we start at, it ends up being stretched by
Mm-hmm.
all the different. So you get the best value when you're designing this way with a green home
Mm-hmm.
with attention to finding the most durable building materials and then also the types of equipment and finishes and so on that will be as efficient as possible over the long term.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of a payoff to going this way. And I
Yeah,
just wanted to end with a little kudos to my team. These are all my designers.
that's so.
We all enjoy doing this green design together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and
be happy
you
to
touched so.
answer any questions. Go back to a kind of generic slide so we can talk.
No, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
This is very, very helpful to see the images, the graphics. It's always helpful to have a visual. And that you've touched so many things that I want to ask you all these other questions like materials and the landscaping, and it just keeps going. But so one of the struggles that I have as a real estate agent or a green agent is that it's just not very much recognized, the like a green point system. I have seen properties on the market that had a green point rated poster or those card, but
Right.
it's not being well conveyed of the values of the rated system or even LEED, to to really talk about the values of so-called green homes. And how do you see these systems from your standpoint as a designer architect? um, what is it that we have to do to really convey the values of it, the benefit of the
Mhm.
green homes, and using the rating system? We didn't even discuss the Hearst rating and some other that we even in the US now we have more different certification programs and systems for green buildings. What do you think we need to be doing as someone who is promoting the idea of green homes?
Well, this is such an interesting time to
Yes.
be talking about this because I think with the Biden administration, there's a lot of interest in really starting to, on a national
Mm-hmm.
basis, to
Yes.
provide some meaningful
Yes.
incentives
Yes.
for both new green home constructions, but even more importantly, actually for existing home
Yes.
retrofits.
Mm-hmm.
So existing homes um, are really kind of the gas guzzlers
Yeah.
of our building stock,
Mm-hmm.
and it's obviously tremendously hard to motivate people to do work on their home when they're
Right.
already living in it. And as
Right.
far as they know, it's just working fine. But usually, the average existing home is kind of a hodgepodge. It's sort
Yeah.
of like something that was well designed back in 1920 for
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then for the next, 100 years, all sorts of random changes were made, some of which actually can make it dangerous,
Yeah.
but often can be just sort of counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a really great program 10 years ago under the Obama administration and with California leading the way called
Mm-hmm.
Energy Upgrade California
Yes. Mm-hmm.
that really promoted existing home upgrades
Mm-hmm.
using Greenpoint rated.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the great things they did is they provided a $2,000 rebate, first of all, to get your home rated,
Right.
and then also incentives for you to get an energy audit, which is usually one of the biggest problems with an
Right.
existing home.
Right.
So that was a really wonderful program, and I look forward to having some similar incentives, hopefully in the near future,
Mm-hmm.
ideally at the national level.
Yeah.
A lot of times these things are put in place by utility companies as part
Right.
of the regulatory agreement
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
their state. But it would be even more valuable if it could be on the national level, because then
Yeah.
we start to see
Yes.
some change.
I agree, and I'm actually quite optimistic about this all the new incentives coming out with this new administration. Um, yeah, so I am, like I said, there's so many things I want to talk to you about. And so do you have any suggestion for me as a real estate agent to be able to really talk about the values of green pointed homes, or, LEED certified homes, or any other, systems that we may see out there on the market?
Well, I do know that Greenpoint Rated, for example, has that great training that I believe you did for real
Yes,
estate agents.
thanks to you.
They also provide marketing materials, which are
Mhm,
really quite useful for
mhm,
explaining the value of green homes to
mhm.
buyers. They've also helped to educate appraisers and some of the other really important,
Right.
players in the real estate industry about the value of green home upgrades.
Mhm.
So one of the real huge advantages is obviously if your house is energy efficient or has been upgraded, you're going to be paying less for utilities, and so
Right.
you're going to have more money to pay your mortgage.
Right.
Oh, that's pretty helpful,
Yes.
especially in the California market where
Mhm,
everybody is stretched
mhm.
pay for housing no matter what.
Yeah.
So that argument needs to be made repeatedly, and particularly by real estate agents and
Yes.
people who are kind of close to the buyers,
Yes. Yes.
because a lot of people don't realize that they can actually get a
Mhm,
credit on their mortgage
mhm.
for buying a green rated home.
Right. Right.
And that would be tremendously helpful. One of the things that's way overdue in the US and has already happened in Europe is that every home on the market there has to get an energy audit
Yeah.
and an energy rating.
Mhm.
So there was talk about that here in the US, but it never really happened.
Yeah.
And that is a way of kind of, it's almost like a, public health grade or something for a
I agree.
house.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
they literally are from A to G.
Right.
And, my in-laws' house in France got a G, I think. So
Oh my
it
God.
was probably state of the art in 1974, but it had really been surpassed by many, many code upgrades and
Mhm.
technology improvement.
Mhm.
Um, so getting that kind of really useful
Mhm.
information, it's
Mhm.
way more important probably than the termite report or some of
Yeah.
those things that take up pages and pages of your real estate transaction.
Yes. Yes.
So that would be a tremendous improvement if we could
Yeah.
get agreement in the real estate market that that was an important document and that it should be standardized,
Right.
ideally across the country, so we really
Mhm.
had a sense
Mhm.
of how we're doing.
Yeah.
As we know, that's the ideal time to replace your toilets with the lower flow
Exactly.
versions and so on.
Yes.
Pretty easy to do
Mhm.
the work on the energy system as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Allison. How I know that we had a your company website URL somewhere on the deck, but how can people find you?
Well, you can find us on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
You can find us at kendallarchitecture.com.
Okay.
And you can also find us under Kendall Architecture on Facebook as well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
please do contact us if you have any interest in green homes at all. One
Mm-hmm.
of the things we do, a really good time to do a green home upgrade is when you're adding or remodeling
Right.
one room in your house. So
Right.
we often help people kind of develop a master plan for how
Mhm.
to incrementally make their home more green.
I see.
Most of us can't deal with, ripping the whole place up, especially right now when we're sheltering in place.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
important.
we help you kind of prioritize. Okay, we're going to start here, and then we'll do this, and we can help you think about how to combine different projects so that you can do the eventual complete green home, but
Right.
without bankrupting yourself or driving yourself crazy.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This was Izumi Tanaka with Home Green Homes, and until next time. And I am going to stop the live stream. Thank you.